and we know it. Thank you. Thanks.
Cada vez que el dólar sube un peso, a mí me entran 7 millones.
El mes de septiembre, no 23, serán conservadas y luego ofreceremos concierto en México, Estados Unidos, algunos países de Centro y Sudamérica. Esto será en el 2024. Estamos eternamente agradecidos al público que tan generosamente han a nuestra música en sus corazones y dice que han sido el motor de inspiración de nuestra carrera por a los medios de comunicación. Qué bueno. A los medios de comunicación, dice, les damos las gracias a esa gente que siempre está programando nuestras canciones bonitas. Bueno, nuestras canciones, nomás dijo, yo le puse bonita. Es que son lindas, ricas, por supuesto, Los Temerarios. Y de verdad que qué lindo que tengan este bonito gesto de enviar este comunicado y que no nos dejen fuera, porque, bueno, nosotros aparte que programamos...
조장혁의 Love is Over 듣고 왔습니다.
플러리님께서 오셨습니다.
네.
안녕하세요. 이쌤 신 기자님. 오늘
how many endpoints that we're monitoring. So we were down below a quarter of now we're over 6% for sampling. We know how each desktop at each site, at each echelon, at each system command is performing. Proactive insights, moving out of the reactive, we only have enough to troubleshoot, into now we know who's going to go before they call. Maybe we can even, in some cases, when we've done this at a few sites, solve the problem before they knew to call the help desk. The success stories that we're after, so that we can have people be as productive and unaffected by friction as possible. We want more people not thinking about their IT on a daily basis. And I'd say, and to your point, that drastic increase on being able to measure and adapt has helped in the near term. It's also going to help in the long term in terms of investments, because now we know which pilots are having a larger impact than others. This is driving our spend. We think about the impact of some of these efforts. There's less guessing and more estimating now.
We've talked a fair amount about the Pentagon pilots so far, conversation. Let's talk about what we think that you have learned out of that is applicable to the broader Navy, because I think the Pentagon's pretty unique in terms of how transport is organized there, the various stakeholders that have a role in providing IT into the building. Not every Navy facility is like that. So out of everything you learned from the Pentagon, how much of it is exportable to the rest of the shore side and the fleet?
So from a lessons learned perspective, starting generally, we know that measuring twice and applying, learning by, and all of the process activities of triangulating are very scalable. So what we did at the Pentagon early on was we started a playbook so that we could crowdsource this to us who are volunteering, who are leaning forward. The volunteer has grown, and they have started in some cases proactively, some cases they're begging, in some cases they're just starting. But Damon Regan, the theme lead there, has done an awesome job charging up the community, both the Navy and Marine Corps, for folks who want to lean forward on that, and where we can stay fishers of men or a train the fifth trainer pass it along situation would do that. That's at the process level. At the people level, there's more player coaches. If you can really translation and also reach down the stack and pull people in, and you're doing it. The difference in knowledge work there is it's excellent, and so we know that there's a fervor of a hungry person to get something done, and so we've applied our hungry people, and that has led to other hungry people. We have Presidential Innovation Fellows who have now started helping, volunteers from different sites and from the tactical edge. And so one of the things that happened that we're pretty excited about was it was in San Diego last week, working with a CSO on a carrier who said some of the things that PEO Digital in this case was doing, and some of the things that PEO C4I were doing, they connect. So let's pilot let's pilot earlier, and let's see where that has earlier applications to impact the fleet at large. And so as a result of that, we're seeing increases in speed, actual from the site, as well as running through that process. Those performance player coaches connect together. It's making a big difference. I always say if the world's getting smaller, that you're probably doing something right, and the number of connected, biased towards action folks who are on this right now is blowing my mind. There's Alice in the Wonderland. Was it looking through the looking glass?
Yeah.
Right, and it's here you see it takes all the running you can do to keep place. If you want to go somewhere else, you must run at least twice as fast. And people who are willing to run twice as fast for a surge, and it's making so we have people making all the difference in the world.
I don't know how much this is knowable, but give us how much of the Navy is actually covered by the movement efforts right now. How much of the population is actually seeing things get better? And as of now, are there any barriers to really deploying the solutions that you've come up with so far outside of a pilot basis and putting them in, I don't know if production's the right word, but making them the way the Navy does business every day?
I've talked a lot about speed. We want to be, you brought up security. There's also the end of maturity. And so we do want to push, but we don't want to make people so uncomfortable that we're giving them immature solutions. So broken this into 4 different horizons. And so stop me if this gets wonky. We're doing more piloting. We Horizon 2. That piloting and the partners in Horizon 3, so it's left to right, 3, 2, 1, 0. That pipeline has allowed us to learn by doing, but the users uncomfortable. So it gives them a chance to work. It gives them a chance to experience and give feedback with anyone at risk. And when things are mature, now not for business IT, we're not talking about 99% mature. We're still learning by doing, but when something is mature enough that it's moving to production. So there are some cases where the solutions that we're talking about are out to 10% of our. There are some where we're trying for home runs and we're out to less than 1%, but we're really excited about where we're going and where we're experimenting in terms of different use cases. And then there's the measurement and some others that has now affected over 50%. The specific, those endpoint licenses, I mentioned 6% total, but that's every single site and base command is represented under those. So we have significantly more insight. So I'd say the question is somewhere between 100 and less than 1%, depending on the pilot. But the way these are coming together, learning from each other and scaling, is moving at an acceleration of probably about 3x of where we were a year ago.
Talking with Justin Finelli, the Department of the Navy's Acting Chief Technology Officer, on what the Navy is doing on the Fix Our Computers front around the world. We'll talk more in just a minute on Federal News Radio, part of the Federal News Network. This is on DoD. I'm Jeremy.
Today, 1 in 5 working-age Americans has a mental health condition.
People in all types of jobs, all levels.
And the key to helping us succeed is a supportive and inclusive workplace.
All of us have a role to play in making that happen.
So what can I do to help?
As a CEO, I can set the tone for supportive culture.
As a manager, I can offer assistance and accommodations.
As a coworker, I can listen and be a support to my colleagues.
As someone with a mental health condition, I can ask for what I need to perform best.
I can offer all employees the supports they need to deliver on the job, for the team
and for the business.
What can I do?
What can I do?
What can I do?
I find others
that we all benefit from workplaces that promote good mental health.
Mental health-friendly workplaces are more important than ever,
and all of us have a role to play in promoting them.
Learn more at whatcanyoudocampaign.org.
Federal career can last 30 years or more, and so can your federal retirement. Tune in for Benefit every Monday morning to get the information you need to plan retirement, maximize your federal benefits, and increase your financial savvy. For your benefit, presented by NITP and sponsored by WAPA, offers valuable information on top interest to the federal employee. Join us each Monday at 10 a.m. on Federal News Network. For additional information, visit NITP.com.
Want to get out of just about anything and look like a nurse hero? Just use the environment excuse. High school sorry, can't. Planetary obligations. Bridesmaid's dress. Unfortunately, you buy more vintage. Chauffeuring. The earth really needs them to hoof it. The environment is always excuse. Find your out and opt in to cutting carbon. Just visit theenvironmentexcuse.org. Brought to you by Wild Aid.
Federal Solutions from Spectrum Enterprise, part of Charter Communications, deliver technology federal agencies need today. Spectrum Enterprise has decades of experience designing and implementing solutions and a nationwide reach with more than 230,000 fiber route miles. Spectrum Enterprise Federal Solutions help to simplify operations and turn the challenges of federal network modernization into opportunities for agencies and for the people they serve. Learn more at Enterprise.
what's left is right. Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through. Times don't fly too high. Be sure to keep the ground in sight. Fly forever if you keep it tight. Love the world but keep the sky on your mind. Flying, get on board.
this. For new construction, it's a no-brainer. Smarter on how to apply them on military base in the last 6 months. And for sites that would like rewiring, but they're 7 years old, we're pretty confident that you can remediate that either through configuration or potentially some hardware as opposed to rewiring. So 20 years plus site rewiring is something that's part of a normal cycle. This is the Golden Gate Bridge of upgrades. You are always upgrade everywhere, but that normal cycle and figuring out how to do that differently and cheaper has been one that we've learned on. So in this particular case, postgrad did a research project for us. We had students for the just we kind of left them alone. They did their interviews 3 months there. They came back and said between meeting with vendors, other sites, and commercial industry who has done this themselves, so not the vendor side, but the users of the vendor side, they're seeing passive optical network is dropping the price. And so this is the case of we have better windows, so our air conditioning bill goes down to the point where you can amortize the windows. So we're looking at the tail and the viability of these solutions. In terms of the actual timeline, we're showing how that can go faster, but I wouldn't say that the goal is to overhaul all transport by any means. It's up to the right solution for the right problem, and we're able to color that and then also work with the Joint Force. CDAOs doing some great work there. We're plugged into the JADC2 community and scalers, them, us, and a couple other partners shown us a lot. On the endpoints, I think we're probably going a bit faster than even you would expect. 200,000 endpoints refreshed this fiscal year, and continuing to push out those NVD components for folks who need it, and those displays.
Yeah, let's drill down on a little bit. When people are actually having a better, faster answer, are they interacting with a virtual machine in most cases, or are they locally installed hardware on a hard client? Where exactly are those AVD devices or AVD instances for all this?
Yeah, so NVD, it works on your personal device. So that's a home computer. You can also do that on a government furnished equipment. But I think the answer to your question is yes to both. So I am a user of both, and then we do a lot of A/B testing or get better in terms of take it and then improve it. And the NVD solution as well as the endpoints are both included whenever we talk about this order of magnitudes and performance.
One thing that you guys have talked about before is where NMCI is in all this, and I think it's come up that for a lot of these use cases, as things move to flank speed and other cloud hosting solutions, you don't necessarily need to connect to those through NMCI. You can bypass a lot of that and simplify your path to the public internet. Is that playing a role here in terms of speeding things up and improving the user experience? And what's kind of NMC's role going forward as you move a lot of things around here?
So and overall how this fits together, one net, the other enterprise net mix in. They're learning from the technology. So I guess to your point, number one, we want to simplify that because that's part of the band LAN remediation. In terms of particular network or project, we're thinking pretty holistically. So I wouldn't think of this as from NMCI to flank speed. This is a simplified this, and there are existing enterprise and accepted networks, and where we can use the higher performance flatter network, we are doing that, and you'll see more of that. And Operation Cattle Drive is put out in terms of rationalizing components or projects or other things. We want to do that. We want to drive down costs. We're just like your security question. If there are things that are on top that are not to the bottom line, then through subtraction of some particular networks or projects, we want to do that. In fact, sometimes that scares people when they hear it, but it scares the folks who are our partners a little bit less than I would expect. We're getting volunteers on that. We're saying, hey, this is something that you could cattle drive, or here's somewhere that you could save money in favor of an enterprise solution, as long as that enterprise solution looks significantly better than what I have today. And we're proving that, and we'd like to work as much as possible.
Justin Finelli is the acting Department of the Navy Chief Technology Officer, and he also wears a second hat as the Technical Director for the Program Executive Office for Digital and Enterprise Services. He's back with us for a few more minutes after one last break on Federal Radio, part of the Federal News Network. This is on DoD. I'm Jared Serving.
Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out. But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, that frog will boil. As a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans, it's a that rings true. We learn to endure the heat in silence. We apply what we learn to life, the bills, the job, the family, things we're expected to handle with ease. When life heats up around us, we just try to stay afloat. We let the water boil. Reaching out isn't easy, but you've never been interested in easy. You joined, we're not afraid of hard work. You are not a frog. If you or a veteran you know needs support, don't wait until the water boils. Reach out. Find resources at va.gov/reach. That's va.gov/reach to you by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and the Ad Council.
News impacting feds and contractors, plus Mike Causey's unique perspective on pay, benefits, and retirement. Subscribe to the Morning Federal Report, Federal News Network.
Hi, this is Luke McCormack. Please join me on Tuesday, September 5th at noon for my monthly series, The Federal Executive Forum, proudly celebrating 18 years. This month's program will focus on profiling cybersecurity trends with Chief Information Security Officers. The panel includes government leaders from the Department of Veterans Affairs and the Department of Homeland Security. Don't miss the Federal Executive Forum on Tuesday, September at noon, right here on Federal News Network.
We are the bridge between people and services, closing the gaps between for support and those who need it. We believe in the promise of technology, drive insights that have the potential to change lives. We apply deep domain expertise, transforming government programs to become more responsive, flexible, and secure. We are Maximus, moving people forward.
As a teacher, I should know the answer. With Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis, answers don't come easy. Steroids made my gut feel better, but they brought symptoms and risks of their own. A friend told me about the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, and they helped me find a specialist. We talked through the pros and cons and landed on a new. I feel like the guy with answers again. So wait, make sure you have the latest info and the best plan for you. Spill your guts. Learn more at spillyourguts.org.
Tom Temin here, coming up on Thursday's Federal Drive. Any little U.S. Copyright Office has found success in digitizing an old and paper-intensive function to deliver better customer experience. Plus, the twin passions of public service and of helping vulnerable people have animated the career of this senior executive and service to America Medals finalist. Join me Thursday morning starting at 6 for the Federal Drive with Tom Temin here on Federal News Network.
On Federal News Radio, part of the Federal News Network. This is on DoD. I'm Jared Serbu. And a few minutes left with Justin Finelli, the acting Department of the Navy Chief Technology Officer, as we talk about some of the ongoing pilots the Navy's conducting to try to improve user experience around the world. I'd like to talk a bit about how industry partners are in all this. How are you getting access to some of the technology that are offering some solutions here? I understand a lot of it is fairly non-traditional.
There's existing partners and new partners. The existing, they have the familiarity and they have IRAD or internal research and development and commercial off the shelf where their roadmap just happens to align with where we move our goals to their roadmap, and we've gotten smarter because of that. And then our non-traditional path. We have some venture cap act projects that we've pulled in as pilots to light a fire. They've said, hey, we can do this better than DoD can in even a DoD environment, and so we've said, prove it. In those cases and with DoD partnerships, we basically down on folks who can prove it, and we have our metrics at a level above kind of those endpoint or agent or sensor data, but the outcome-driven metrics are WAMs that show are making a huge difference for our warfighters. Are you moving the needle in a significant way? And sometimes that's coming from a different component in the stack. In fact, so I'd say that to your point, the number of smalls who have a real shot at this, and the partnerships that are happening on the back end there, the idea of comparing and scaling the best solution is something that we've been really encouraged about, and DIU has helped with that. Again, the Air Force has helped with that. CDAO has helped with that, but our traditional partners have stepped up and are doing some really impressive work as well.
Maybe you could give us a couple examples where innovation really matters here. And I bring that up because a lot of this is consumer commodity COTS technology here, right? I mean, it's commodity hardware using cloud solutions that to some extent have been, I'm sure, replicated in private industry. The real space for innovation in what you're doing.
Yes. So one of the things that makes military very unique is the tactical side, what we call DDIL, but intermittent and disconnected and limited connectivity. So difficulty in connectivity and scale are two of the biggest pieces of DoD's problems. There are several others, right? But as it relates to just the commodity piece, we're pushing really hard on simplicity for that scale. So I had a student who went and worked for Twitter, now X, but this is years ago, and I said, it doesn't at times seem like your problem is that hard. You're just doing the same thing over and over again. He said, scale is one of the hardest things you can possibly work on. And so to this point, where we can partner and team, so for SATCOM and for PLEO, proliferated low Earth orbit, by having just one configuration that can satisfy both afloat and ashore or tactical enterprise solutions, the tail on that, by having one as opposed to a Burger King number of configurations, really changes our speed to deploy. Sometimes innovation is simplicity. Sometimes innovation is elegance through subtraction. Another case there is we talked about hyper-converged infrastructure stacks and how there's real potential to team and link up and partner. When we can be very homogeneous and satisfy a lot of problems with just a couple options, that really helps us to flatten the network, and it really helps us with speed. So I'd say those are a couple examples on where we can really redline the scale and the tactical aspects.
And what's kind of forum or forums for where you're gathering these innovators together, present your problems to them and have them offer solutions? Is there some particular OTA consortium or for people who feel like they might have answers for you, how do they get in?
Yeah, they're figuring it out. So something about grinders is they find a way. So there are the traditional, there are conferences. We do have OTA consortiums, but I am hesitant to mention LinkedIn because I suspect everyone on here is getting more messages than they used to, and that's sometimes what traction attracts. But in general, the thing that we've done differently that has helped a lot is by leveling the playing field and having those world-class alignment metrics. It gets from boilerplate cookie cutter to do you understand our mission outcomes and how you can affect those. And so the question in terms of forums are we want to be where the innovators are, but they're finding a way to the building most of the time. So we have not found that to be a huge problem. The number of non-traditionals as well as our existing performers is way up. Our industry visits are way up, and then the number of people who are offering to help has been cool. The Phoenix Project is kind of a cult classic. It's Gene Kim, one of the authors there, and Dr. Steve Spear out of MIT had both reached out. They're putting together a book called Wiring for a Winning Organization, and some of the social circuitry associated with that, and the analogy to what we're doing is really tight. And so they've been helping us and helping them as well as others to just allow this to be a place where the best ideas can flourish. And from a meritocracy perspective, that's, again, resulting in outcomes.
And as we start to kind of run out of time, I want to make sure we talk a little bit about some of the joint aspects to this, because the other military departments obviously have the same scale challenge that the Navy does. Anything you're doing to make sure you pull in some of the good work that's happening in other areas of DoD into what you're doing, and to make sure that what you're doing plays nicely with the department where it needs to?
1,000%. I was on an event, well, I don't think we go many days at all without a joint meeting, and as much as seems like it's a big DoD world to people who are on the outside looking in, the closeness, the connectivity, the personal network, and the responsiveness and how fast ideas travel has been exceptional. So the CXO of the Air Force, Colt Whittle, is someone who helped us start on seconds from a performance management perspective and a customer experience perspective. We continue to go back and forth, and I think that's a 1 + 1 = 3 situation. The CDAO folks and the Advana folks and the Longbow folks have helped us think about these things differently. The DoD CIO and some of the things that they're doing at the overarching level for connectivity are things that we can jump on each other's shoulders on and really partner. So I'd say that there's no shortage of that, and if we were trying to alone, then we'd be slower than we are right now. The difference has been there of folks who are hungry for change coming to the table, being willing to lean forward, and working hard when no one's looking, and receiving outcomes in spades as a result of that. So if hungry people who want to continue to engage in this fight and to friends and bring them to the table, we're looking for civil servants who want to make things happen. We're looking for vendors and partners with a bias towards action, and we are going to go hard warfighters happy.
And once again, that is Justin Finelli, the Acting Department of the Navy Chief Technology Officer. Missed any part of our discussion about what the Navy's been up to try to improve user experience for sailors, millions around the world? We'll post this week's entire episode, as always, at federalnewsnetwork.com/ondod. You can also find us wherever you get your podcasts. As always, for tuning in, I'm Jared Serby. So long.
You've been listening to OD on Federal News Network. Tune in Wednesday mornings at 11 or subscribe to this show on iTunes Cast One.
Selling to the government made easier thanks to the Coalition for Government Procurement. Federal News Network. Search off the shelf.
Each week on the Business of Government Hour, government executives and thought leaders join host Bill Keegan for an informative, insightful, and in-depth conversation on government and its effectiveness. These individuals are truly changing the way government does business. So join them each week on the Business of Government Hour. Find out how the business of government, business as usual. The Business of Government Hour, every Monday, 7 a.m. on Federal at 11 Network.
Every discipline in the cancer. HopeCam has been providing computers and internet access to kids with cancer to keep them connected to friends and classmates during treatment. This year launched our 20 Years of Hope, hoping to raise funds to ensure that any child who requests HopeCam will never be denied. Your donations will pediatric cancer patients feel less isolated. To make a donation or to help learn more about HopeCam, please visit our website at www.hopecam.org.
Wildfires is devastating and traumatic. After wildfires, dishonest contractors show up hoping to make a quick buck from your insurance claim. They'll promise anything if you to sign a contract, collect your payment in advance, and ultimately do no work at all. Avoid being the victim of contractor fraud. Get estimates from at least 3 contractors. Check references, and remember, if you didn't request it, reject it.
To report fraud, call us at 1-800-TEL-NICB. This is a public service message from the National Crime Bureau.
The Federal News Network Community Spotlight is the Alzheimer's Association. The Alzheimer's Association is the leading voluntary health organization in Alzheimer's care, support, and research. Millions are affected by Alzheimer's disease. You can make a difference. Volunteer, advocate, donate. Sign up to Walk to End Alzheimer's. Take action today and help achieve a world without Alzheimer's and all other dementia. For more information, visit federalnewsnetwork.com, search partners. That's federalnewsnetwork.com, search partners.
The network. We're the news organization of record for the Federal. Our mission is helping you meet your mission. WFED Washington, WTOP FM HD2 Washington, W283DG Sterling, WTLP FM HD2 Braddock Heights, WWWTFM HD2 portions pre-recorded. Federal News Network.
This paid program may not represent the views of Hubbard Broadcasting Incorporated or Federal News Radio. Statements and opinions of this broadcast are solely those of individual contributors or advertisers as indicated. Federal News Radio does not take responsibility for those statements and accepts no responsibility or liability for any inaccuracy, errors, or omissions reported during this program.
This is the Business of Government Hour, a conversation about and management with government executives and thought leaders who are truly the way government does business. Welcome to a special edition of the Business of Government Hour. Leaders speak on federal IT. I'm Michael Keegan, your host. The rapid transfer of Americans interact with businesses and others has read how they raise their expectations of how with government. Lengthy paperwork, cumbersome processes, and organizations centered around procedures and traditions are no longer acceptable in the eyes of the people. The importance of changing how government views and manages information and information technology cannot be understated. No longer can federal IT be seen as a mere office function, and the management of government information relegated to a low-level priority. Federal agencies need to adapt to the modern digital world, and as a result, we see across the U.S. federal government agencies undertaking IT modernization and digital transformation efforts in pursuit of a more efficient and impactful service delivery. Though these modernization efforts often deliver outstanding results, many times their benefits remain isolated, a small portion of the organization. Modernization should focus on the mission of the organization in service of its customers, rather than growing innovation out of IT. It is important for leaders to find the intersection between mission goals and business needs. Always connect technology back to the mission. To scale IT modernization efforts, it's important to have a well-defined vision. What are you trying to achieve and why? In this special edition, I'll explore IT modernization across the federal enterprise and offer perspectives from a handful of federal IT executives, touching on topics such as cybersecurity, experience, and challenges being faced and opportunities being seized in this area. Over the last couple of years, many federal chief information officers from a variety of agencies. It is from this rich library that have collected insights on federal IT and their efforts to transform how their agencies do business. Some time ago, I had the pleasure of interviewing Federal Chief Information Officer Claire Maturana. And during our conversation, she offered the following insights, highlighting key IT priority areas for the federal government.
Well, both cybersecurity, you'll continue to hear me, but is during mission-critical jobs. Also, modernizing our IT. We have a lot of legacy systems in government, and we are on a journey to continue to modernize our entire IT. Improving customer experience is very critical, making sure that we're meeting the expectations of the American public, who, especially during COVID, learned that digital interactions can be safe and secure. secure, and they want that from their government. And then I think the fourth is really securing and using our data, a strategic asset. That is absolutely critical because we provide the government with data about us in order to complete a task or engage in a service. And we oftentimes ask repetitive questions in silos. And I think that we all recognize that we can do best both security that data and make it we can do digital programs, understanding the data we already have and helping someone make it more informed or take a path. The IT operating plan was important for us to bring the technology teams together at the center of government, the United States Digital Service, our colleagues at GSA, and the Office of the Federal CIO, together to talk about how we work independently, how we work with each other, how we support each other, and really importantly, how we drive impact from the center to best help agencies and technology teams across government deliver their success for their own missions.
Information technology is a critical part of how we operate the federal government and may deliver services. Claire Maturana, CIO, offered the following insights on efforts to scale modernized IT across federal agencies and enable the government to successfully adapt to the constantly evolving digital landscape.
One of the things I think that is very important to recognize is that through the communities of practice, CIO and CISO councils, we are working together every single day, sharing playbooks, innovative best practices. In the federal government, no matter how small the agency, should be starting with a blank piece of paper. That is how we are going to scale and modernize IT across federal agencies. So we are building significant partnerships, building on work that had been done previously and continuing to grow a partnership with our budget colleagues, making sure we're making the right investments at the right time, that we're all sharing and inspiring the federal workforce, right? Doing, demo days and communicating with key stakeholders how modern human-centered design delivers great products and services and provides great return on investment, which is a really important of what we do. So I have a couple examples that I really have been inspired by. One is the Department of Veterans Affairs mobile app, right? Most of the American public uses a mobile device pretty frequently, if not daily, and we're getting access to goods and services. So veterans now use the VA app to locate facilities, they can view and cancel appointments, they can securely message their doctors, access the Veterans Crisis Line, and they also get to use some of the native technology in the mobile device, right? So, geolocating, so looking at things and then having to write down the address and then look up the address when you're in the car isn't quite fluid as being able to look up the address on your mobile device and have it move immediately into geolocating and getting you on your way to your appointment or service. So that things that A is doing, I think so far they have a 4.7 or 8 ranking on the app stores. And I think close to 1 million veterans are using the app right now. And to me, that is a great story that can be shared with multiple other agencies that are also delivering benefit to the public on how they went about doing this, what contracting vehicles they used, budgeted for it. So again, trying to help agencies not start at a blank piece of paper, but really leverage some key learnings that we have had across the government.
As Claire Maturana underscores, IT modernization has been a key priority for some time within federal agencies. Ann Duncan, Chief Information Officer at the U.S. Department of Energy, offers insight into the IT modernization journey of her agency and the role cloud computing plays in it.
The cloud is really somebody else's data center, right, Michael? We all know that. Sometimes we make the cloud out to be this big, amazing, incredible thing, and it's just a data center. The advantage of the cloud is that if you use the cloud wisely, it's a data center that somebody can run better than you can. And the example I use is or if you're buying a cloud service, it's one that you don't have to build and maintain yourself. So, for example, the Microsoft Office 365, right? GUI runs Office 365, as do many folks. We also run Google in a part of our enterprise. So, one of the things you'll learn about if you dig in is if a product exists, we probably own it somewhere. So we're an equal opportunity consumer. But when you look at email collaboration in the cloud, number one, I don't have to worry about upgrading that service if I put it in the cloud. I don't have to say, oh, you've pushed out, you've deployed new tools, I want to implement them. They're all just going to show up. So that's number one. Number two is Microsoft or Google, as things that we have email services with, and we probably have others too that I'm not aware of at the moment, that they're experts at securing email. They're experts at securing collaboration services at a level of release that we don't have. So when you select a product that someone has deep expertise in securing, and you're more likely for them to be able to secure it successfully than for you to secure it yourself. Other end of the spectrum, we have applications and services and capabilities that we own in DOE where we are a customer of one. There's nobody that product for us, and there's no reason to go move that to the cloud when we understand it in some cases. Other cases, we might say, we want to be able to collaborate across DOE, move to the cloud makes it so we're going to do that. There are also things that we're moving to the cloud, but in very secure environments. And those cloud environments are customized for us, and so that adds a great benefit to DOE to have those highly cloud environments. And then finally, I'd add that on that sort of what do I think of the cloud uses model, we have supercomputers. We do some supercomputing in the cloud as well. So we have on-premise and we have in the cloud. But also you have to look at the data for some of those applications for computing and research. How much data do you have? How much data you're going to be moving? Is it possible to move the kind of data that you need to, keeping in mind that many of our sites, even though we have great connectivity, are in the middle of nowhere. So if you've got great connectivity, there are still limitations on how much data you're going to be moving from the cloud for some of those applications. So as CIO, what we're doing is serving as a cloud broker across DOE for when you look at platform structures and service, Microsoft, Amazon, and Google capabilities for the enterprise, as well as capabilities in some other clouds as well. But those are sort of the three big ones that we've deployed. But we have, for example, we have worked on other things that are for smaller cloud environments. And our role is really to say, here are all these fully secured solutions. So you can work in the Microsoft cloud, you can work in the Amazon cloud, you can work in the Google cloud, you can work in the Oracle cloud, whatever it might be. And they're fully secured, they're ATO'd, they're ready for you to go and use those our enterprise agreements in our enclaves. So that's really what we do with the folks across DOE, and that can be anything from, hey, we'll fully run your application to give you some space to do your own thing in that, to work through your ATO process when you've got your application settings. And the ATO will be simpler because you're inheriting all these controls from the ATO that already exists for the platform. So kind of a long answer for the cloud there.
And CIO at Energy elaborates on the factors that are essential in scaling IT modernization and tells us more about the Sling IT modernization playbook she helped develop.
Yeah, I want to start by first saying that the playbook credit, because I don't want to forget to say this, credit for the playbook goes to a lot of people. All I get is credit for the idea. I had a tremendous team that built the playbook for us, and they interviewed some people from across the federal government and the private sector. I think the great thing about the playbook is if you'd asked me to write down my list of plays, what we ended up with was not the same list that I would have started with, which just proves that none of us is as smart as all of us, and that we have really great ideas and great knowledge that we need to tap. So that said, the idea of the playbook goes back to the time that early in the pandemic was working for Dell, and apparently I couldn't sort of just stay and relax. And so I signed up for a day one project, and I got my CTO for a guy out to do that with me, and we put together this proposal for several things, and one of which was the federal government should build a scalabilization playbook, because what we've seen is we've got a lot of places where we're doing modern development, where we're doing DevSecOps, and they're little pockets. And how do little pockets into a big landscape of scaled innovation? And there are very few places where the Air Force has done some great work with factories. Other people are starting to follow that. There's not a lot of it. So we said, how do we do that? Which was the playbook. Came back to government, and I was able to build that playbook. And so the idea behind that playbook is all the the tools and capabilities that if they run these plays, they're going to help them forward to being able to scale modern development practices across their enterprise instead of keeping in these small pockets of innovation organizations. So that was the purpose, and it's been successful in terms of looking at it. I mentioned earlier I was at a FedScoop event. I think I had 3 different people come up to me and say they'd seen the book, they liked the playbook, they wanted to talk about the playbook, and that was just in one evening. So it's out. It's actually at energy.gov/CIO. It's available to anybody to take it, use it, share it. Not proprietary about it. Private sector, public sector, anyone can use it, and we hope that it is helpful to people in their modernization journey.
Guy Carvalho, Chief Information Officer at the U.S. Office of Personal Management (PM), concurs with Duncan and shares his IT modernization strategy, acknowledging what needs to be in place and what approach will get you there.
Definitely moving to the cloud is my top priority. I mean, outside of what we've already talked about on hiring the rep and making sure that we have training and all that, assuming that's all in place, I believe the cloud is the best way for the federal government to provide the best service to citizens, making sure that we're investing in our employees with that, continuing and realize that we can't just hire somebody and let it stagnate, and we want to give them a future. And it's really one of the things I'm excited here that I didn't get to do before is that the tools have progressed. Last time I took an agency to a cloud, which was 5 years ago. Maria wrote, and I did that at the SBA. We're trusted by the senior leadership to do it because we was the way, but we didn't really have to show them a lot. Nowadays, and I didn't have they both knew that it was going to provide better service at either cost or approximately the same cost, but things that we couldn't do. Now today, we're actually in the middle of running tools to calculate the cost of moving every single system to the cloud. I didn't have that hard data before. I'm going to have it now. I already worked out our plan on how we're going to migrate and what we're going to move. The Federal CIO Council came out with an application rationalization process. We've used that where basically you take each system and you put it in a grid of 4 things. One is nobody's using the system, so we're going to turn it off. And there's always those, and you don't want to migrate those. And that this is so complicated that we hide it, so it needs to stay on-premise for Convo now. There's ones where this can move to the cloud quickly as structure of the service, and then the fourth one is we could switch it to platform as a service. So we've already done that analysis, and what my team did, which was great, is they put a level of effort estimate on it. So not only do I have that heat map, but for each system, I have how hard it is to do. So that are to move and have the biggest impact in the upper right quadrant. Those are the things we're going to tackle first. But now in January, I'll have the financial data and be able to go back and show the leadership. Here's why we're moving this application to the cloud. Here's how much it will come to cloud. Because it's even today, and I mentioned earlier, 18 years, come on, the cloud's not new. The costing of the cloud and consumption model is still something people are struggling with, and the fear of somebody could hit a switch and we're going to get a $1 bill overnight. That that story is still out there. So to show here's what it's actually going to cost, and then the CapEx of I'm not going to need to go buy a new data center model 5 years where I'm going to come and say I need $30 million above and beyond my budget just to buy and keep everything like we have it. I find CFOs love that. If a CIO works closely and says, look, instead of me coming to you and saying I need to rebuy the data center and it's this massive increase, can I give you a steady line cost instead? And every seat, give me that steady line cost instead of that massive increase. So those are all parts of doing it. I didn't mention it earlier, the CIO, to be successful, absolutely. Let's work hand in hand with the financial team because this is a change for them too. And being able to explain these things to them help. In fact, applications, I moved to the CFO application. The Congress did to give us a priority of building a new health benefits program for the U.S. Posters with a very short time frame. So that is a very big priority for us. We are working across the organization to do that, and the rules are different for that. So the current federal employee health benefits system, different set of rules than what was mandated for the Postal Service. So we really have to build a new system. The eligibility is different. The way it'll pay the health programs that will be available to the postal workers are all going to be different. So they might have thought it was just a quick modification of what we had, but it's really a whole different system. So that's a huge priority. And then obviously with every administration, the priorities of the Biden administration on helping DEIA, we've built the first board for the federal government for DEIA, strong push for bringing in early career talent, which is their way of talking about interns and people early in their career. We're doing all of those initiatives too to support that effort. Stabilizing the infrastructure that I inherited, which was not stable, and then moving us to the cloud and also supporting all these initiatives. Something that we did turned on enterprise dashboarding for everybody, so that my experience in the past is you had the haves and the have-nots. Some people could afford the BI and some didn't. I made it uniform so that everybody at OPM can create dashboard. It's growing like wildfire because we have enough data, being the agency of the federal government, and we weren't able to display that in formats. Now we're headed that way, and I think both what's going to be available for citizens on the OPM and also internally in the federal government for various their data much easier for them to decide how long does the agency to hire a certain class of person, being able to compare that. Here's two agencies that do it in half the time. If they're smart, they'll call out two agencies and say, hey, this is taking us this long. How are you able to cut it in half? So not only the data, but being able to use the results of the data to change business practices is huge.
Guy Carvalho, CIO at OPM, more about how of applications to cloud platforms reduce operational expenses and increase.
Yeah, one thing is I'm not into the cloud just on cost. There are some things that we get with the cloud that we do now. The one I just highlighted with our executives in the last week is when we store it's automatically stored in multiple places, so that if a server goes down on vendor side, we don't even know it because they already have two other copies of it, usually one in that same data center in a total different server array, and then a third copy in a totally different data center in case the data center goes offline. We don't even set that's happening. For me to do that physically with my own data centers would be outrageous. Disaster recovery and business continuity. Again, it's like an insurance policy. Everybody hates paying for it, and until you need it, then you realize with the cloud we have that built in automatically. Where on-premise, I would have to spend millions of dollars to have equipment sitting idle for something that may or may not happen. So just that uptime, that resiliency is critical. OPM, the federal agencies, has seasonal traffic. Like a lot of we provide one of the systems where one federal government called USA Profits, where a large number of federal agencies now are using our system, the annual performance reviews of their employees. Well, those are all due in September, and then the next year one is due in October. It's a classic case of elasticity. We have a massive surge of traffic in those 2 months, and then a tremendous delay. Today, on-premise data center, I have to put equipment to hit that surge, and then have it sit idle a year. With the cloud, we can have our cost increase and resource increase, and then the price will drop considerably. So, those are a couple of, I think, the cybersecurity protections. When you're in a major cloud, you're also bringing in the cybersecurity forces of that cloud vendor, which is a great army to add to the federal workforce. So, if something is going wrong, that's something, if you're just doing it yourself on premise, don't have that cavalry to call, or that's already working on it because it's impacting their entire business. Yeah. So there's, those are a number of risks. I'm willing to pay more getting those extra benefits. If it comes close, that's good. But again, part of the story, I'm not saving money with it. Ideally, especially with that elasticity expansion model, I think over the course of a year we can save money, but that's not the driver.
Focusing on cybersecurity and experience when the special edition of the Business of Government Hour, Leaders Speak, returns.
Support government financial performance and accountability. Financial systems must meet certain standards. Relying on outdated financial systems inhibits progress. ERP vendors are encouraging clients to move to the cloud and consider new technologies such as robotic process automation and AI to enhance financial productivity. Download the IBM Center Report Financial Management feature at businessofgovernment.org to learn why and how government can evolve to meet the demands of a digital world. Ebola crisis in West Africa from 2014 to 2016 was an epidemic that put emphasis on global capacity to respond to international disasters. How can government better assess the needs of those affected and help them? The IBM Center Report, Responding to Crisis by Professor Jennifer Whitner, breaks down the U.S. to the Ebola crisis and provides insights on lessons learned that may aid the government responses in the future. Download your free copy, Responding to Global Health Crisis, at businessofgovernment.org.
Welcome to a special edition of the Business of Government Hour. Leaders Speak, insights on federal IT. IT modernization rests on the foundation of secure systems. Integral to any successful modernization effort is embedding cybersecurity into every aspect of that journey. Each volume of cyber attacks and their impact reaches new levels. The number of cyber attacks targeting governments increased 95% worldwide during the first 2022. New thinking and new approaches to cyber governance are required. Governments must act to bolster security capability for agencies, as well as protect critical infrastructure across the nation. Claire Matarana, Federal Chief Information Officer, identifies some cybersecurity challenges facing U.S. federal agencies and offers some ways agencies are working to address these challenges to mitigate the risk and impact of the data, systems, and networks.
This is the number one team sport we are participating in, along with the Office of the National Cyber Director, CISA, NSC, right? There is a multitude of acronyms. All of our efforts focused on cybersecurity. So at highest level, we're really architect model for such a cybersecurity of government. We're in a unique threat environment. Our adversaries are pointing an enormous amount of resources at us, at particular federal agencies, and frankly, the whole federal enterprise. So it is really critically important that we work like a team to make sure that cyber defense is our singular goal. And we're also working to make sure at individual agencies that we're keeping, American information confidential, that we're preserving data integrity, that we're remaining accessible and resistant to these nation-state attacks. But in a lot of ways, it really does require us to think differently, to deploy energy, and very importantly, to adopt mindsets, not keep operating the way that we were previously operating and expect that we're going to have any different outcomes. So, we published the Zero Trust strategy. We made sure that prior to publishing it, that we took a period for public comment, make it better, right? We cannot do the work that we all do without our private sector partners, without academics and researchers that are spending every day focused on these areas. So we believe that the Zero Trust strategy was really federal government was leaning forward and leading in this area. And we are also working very hard to make sure that we are cascading this message to all levels of the workforce. This requires senior leadership that is assuming, responsibility for the posture of their agencies, building staff capability and technology solutions and budget and investment to meet today and tomorrow's challenges. And most important, to bring impact. So I'd say that, again, team sport, we're all working together collaboratively, but it is going to take the workforce really embracing this wholesale change in never trust, always verify. As the new method, we have to think about securing our mission.
Bob Costello, Chief Information Officer at the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, tells us more about his cybersecurity strategy for the agency and how Zero Trust.
It's ensuring that we are seeing all lines of the cybersecurity are vitally important, that all of that. A lot of my folks during that, my teams are continuing to mature as we build out these new systems, that we are, deploying, endpoint detection and remediation tools, that we're pen testing quite often, that we're logging everything that we should be, and that we're reviewing logs. That's a very important thing. That we're tuning our security tools to provide, the best value, across the board. So those are things that I'm concentrating internally here at CISA. You really can't do zero if you can't do identity really well. I think that we have, across the government or in the private sector, you're sometimes dealing with very legacy systems and how you implement them into a zero trust model. I think, like anything, it's a journey. It's a journey that doesn't end. You get better and better. I think it's really important. Director Easley has spoken about as we're rolling out new systems or designing new software, secure by design. So I think it's really important that you have really integrated teams. So my security teams are really integrated with our product teams or engineering teams, and we also have an extremely strong partnership with CISA. We work hand in hand with the cybersecurity director and consume those services that can help us, get better.
Guy Cavallo, CIO at the Office of Management and Budget, tells us about his cybersecurity efforts, especially pursuit of Zero Trust.
Yes, luckily, this is his second agency for Zero Trust because I'd already started it at SBA. Because of that effort, we went early to the Technology Modernization Fund and put in a request to, because of the federal budget cycle, it would have been 2 years before I could have asked for trust money, so I went to TMF instead, and we're one of the few agencies that got early approval on that. I think there were 3 of us that got approval. We are well underway to implementing that now, something that my CISO has done, which I didn't have to encourage him, but he worked with Maria Rote and me at SBO. He knows how we work. He's sharing everything with the community on here's where we are on our journey. For any agencies that are behind us or haven't started yet, we will share best practices, lessons learned, what were the roadblocks, what would we do differently. Zero trust, I think absolutely with terror attacks is the way we have to go to protect our data. The old build a moat around your network and block it, but once they're inside, they can go anywhere. The hackers have proven that is their favorite model, that they can get in and go anywhere. So I'm excited about that. We're well on our way on the journey. It is going to take years to do it fully, and we're able to do it in stages so that we can do that. One thing, going back to user experience, what we did at SBA, once we replaced the VPN with zero trust connection, and that meant that the end user went from having to click on about 8 things to get started every day. We went down to 2 things. Put in your PIV card, type your PIN, and you're done. So the users love that, because sometimes with the VPN clients, they couldn't tell, did it connect or did it connect? From a cyber perspective, the CISO and I love it, because with a VPN, you have the option of either could turn it off and still use their laptop. With Zero Trust, we don't allow them to turn it on. If they're going to log on to their laptop, it's all connected through Zero Trust. So we're able to do patching, we're able to perform data, all the things working in with the VPN we weren't able to do. So that's the easy part of Zero Trust, taking Joe and Sally and then being Joe's going to get this access to these 3 systems at this level, and nothing else. Sally can have access to the systems. That's a lot of legwork, and that's going to take us longer, but I'm excited about that.
Chief Information Officer at the U.S. Patent and Trade Office, U.S. Jamie PTO, offers his insights on its importance, especially in pursuing Zero Trust.
Number 1, cybersecurity. It does basics. It's just like when you walk out of your home, do you lock your doors? Do you make sure the home's secure? We have to start with before you can get into all the high-speed cyber basics. Have multi-factor authentication in order to get into your. Don't allow password share. People actually use words to be start on the inside to be protected from the outside. And so to the monetization, bring the internet age. When we do our we have the ability to assign pretty at the beginning. And there's a lot of work being done right now on Zero Trust. Zero Trust, and just like security, it's not a tool. It's not a thing. It is a way of thinking. The old client-server way and defense is not a bad way. And in fact, is a very good work. There are a couple of weaknesses of defending in depth. We need to have a design theory of Zero Trust where we don't allow these people where they don't need to be. The Zero Trust environment is design thinking. And that's the number cybersecurity thing we're trying to get into, is a different way to think. We're worried about simple neglect of leaving your doors open on your car with your keys right on the dash. That's trying to prevent with insider threat. People might not even know that they're insecure or that they have things open. We have to aid our internal employees. Yes, we have to trust. We also have to look at their patterns and how they're behaving. Should we look at that behavioral analysis and say, wait a second, let's challenge that session to make sure that those are the types of design scenarios we really need to think about in the future of modernizing our IT infrastructure for security.
From securing infrastructure systems to enhancing mission delivery, in the end, the focus is on delivering the best services to the customer. The administration has put customer experience front and center. Guy Cavallo, CIO at OPM, offers insights into how his agency is enhancing customer experiences.
Yeah, I actually gave a talk on this, and I really highlighted that there's 2 areas that we look at. One is what you just highlighted, and I'll get to that second. The second one is the user experience that we provide every day to our employees on our. And one thing that we saw do with COVID is we went from limited telework to telework. But we also initially, and maybe even for a year or two, as if this is a snowstorm, you go back to your office after a few days. We were asking our federal employees that might be doing a legal review page document. While you're in your office, you'd have two large monitors and you'd be able to see this. Go ahead and do it at home on your small laptop and track comments and track where you are, because you get to the office tomorrow. Well, tomorrow didn't come for years. So one of the initiatives we did last year is we equipped every federal employee with the same office equipment at home in the office if they're either a hybrid or a remote worker, so that they have all the same tools and the same capabilities. That, to me, that's again a experience change. Normally we talk about websites and design. The other thing that we did is when I got to open 5 different productivity tools in place, with none of them being the enterprise. So you could IM or chat between 2 people in one office, not even that whole office could be on that same platform, or definitely across the agency. So one thing with this hybrid world of work, we all needed to get on an enterprise platform so that we could communicate. And so, again, that was, going back to our earlier question, that was a culture change, because certain people loved some of those, didn't want to change, but I laid out the business reasons and the cost reasons for that, and now the whole agency is on one platform. In fact, we have led a pilot with the rest of the federal government. We're able to interface from productivity user to productivity user in 28 other agencies. And being the federal HR agency, that means I can have an HR specialist in OPM start an online chat with somebody in the HR department, and then if they decide that this is too complex to chat, immediately hit a button and go into a video. So again, to me, that's part of the user experience that we ignore when we all talk about user stories and changing the way a web application looks. On that side, one of the things I did is I created a DISIS team within OPM. I've worked with the Federal Digital Services team and my other agencies, and again, helpful. They work for somebody else, and they're there a short time and then they leave. What I model is I want to have them under those office and to be here permanently, and that goes back to part of what I talked about earlier. By having those federal employees, current customer experience skills and cloud skills, again, I partner them with the legacy team as part of our modernization effort. We're a big user of DevOps and user story, the postal system that I mentioned to you. We have the entire agency mapping out user stories.
How does an agency decide upon and implement a management framework that will be successful for their specific administration? I'm going to report a practitioner's framework for measuring results follows the implementation and results of CSAT management framework in Colorado's Department of Homeland Security, in hopes that it can guide others who want to institute a similar approach. Download a practitioner's framework for measuring results by Melissa Wavelet on businessofgovernment.org today. Agile methodology has allowed for agencies to keep up with the growing demands for fast response to problem solving. The Opportunity Project, TOP, serves as a catalyst and adapts techniques to solve complex agency mission problems. TOP works with federal agencies to identify and facilitate iterative approaches in response. In the IBM Center report, Agile Problem Solving in Government, Dongle and Katarina Ravello discuss the factors of success involved in TOP. Your free copy today at businessofgovernment.org.
We've laid out a whole journey map of wants to become a federal employee to they go through the submittal of a job. I say jobs, they go through federal interviews, they get hired by agency A. Later on in their career, they change to agency B. They get married, they change their health benefits, and eventually they retire. We've mapped out that whole journey map, and that's part of what our, unfortunately right now, each of those instances is treated as its own silo. Part of our user experiences, we want to make that one common journey that you should always be able to see where you are in the process to deal with that.
We'll explore how the U.S. Department of Defense is pursuing digital transformation and IT modernization when the special edition of the Business of Government Hours.
government best use big data to transform decision-making, public services delivery, and communication? The IBM Center of Big Data and Thick Data Communication Data to Transfer Delivery by Yanyan Ang presents 5 recommendations for public managers introducing the concept of mixed analytics, urging thick data, meaning qualitative information about users, to be presented along big data to improve government decision-making. Visit businessofgovernment.org to read more.
Welcome back to a special edition of the Business of Government Leaders Speak, Insights on Federal IT. Segments I shared insights of CIOs from a variety of civilian agencies. In this segment, I'd like to focus on what is happening in the defense space. The Defense Information Systems Agency, DISA, is a U.S. Department of Defense combatancy. DISA provides, operates, and integrates and control information sharing capabilities, accessible enterprise information infrastructure to the warfighter. Sharon Woods, director of DISA's Hosting and Compute Center, the HAC, offers her insights into how they are working with their users and customers to ensure that solutions and services improve mission readiness for the war.
Yeah, so I think one of the important factors in leveraging with user feedback is using automation to do that, because our customer is the entire Department of Defense. Collecting that data only manually and trying to triage that manually is completely unrealistic, especially to operate at speed. Been using Salesforce, collect all of those different customer interactions and some of the key themes. And technology lets you do from a customer relationship management standpoint. It can apply across all those different engagements, and so common themes, common problems that are to emerge. You have to be able to synthesize, what is relevant to a vast majority of the department, because we are an enterprise provider and really need to hit as much of customer population.
Woods notes it's critically important for DoD to pursue a hybrid cloud approach, relying on a combination of mainframe and commercial cloud options. Woods elaborates on the need for optionality.
Also an example where it can be a little surprising, because one of the things that we're responsible for is also mainframe technology. And people hear that and think, oh, well, that's some legacy capability where there's this gigantic mainframe intervention cards, and so, clearly we need to get out of that business. But it is actually an option for some of our customers. If you look at the banking industry, mainframe is especially well suited to host enormous amounts of data and to process an enormous amount of actions. And so that makes sense within banking and all the financial transactions that they need to process. The Department of Defense has a workforce, and there are quite a few transactions that happen around pay and personnel, for instance. And so there is a place for mainframe technology, within that case. And so with HIOS, we weren't looking at how do we integrate all the different hosting and compute platforms across that entire spectrum. We'd be missing the boat on really the requirements of some of our customers. And so that's why hybrid is important. You can't become the provider of choice. You can't provide best value solutions if you're providing some of them, when fundamentally the technology is a spectrum of capabilities. It isn't just one or the other.
Lisa Leckie, Deputy Chief Information Officer, Information Enterprise at the U.S. Department of Defense, joined me some months ago to share her insights on DoD's modernization journey. She acknowledges DoD's adaptability, reliability to deliver resilient software capability securely and rapidly to the warfighter. She tells us more about DoD's software modernization strategy.
The DoD software modernization strategy laid out 3 goals. The first goal is accelerate the DoD enterprise cloud environment. What that means is really the ability to have the ready access to the industry capability and the service capabilities that that cloud offers. So one of the things that we're doing, and you've heard about the Joint Wider Cloud Capability, JWCC, in the works. It's a multi-cloud, multi-vendor, direct acquisition, ability to have direct acquisition from the cloud service providers, the services and abilities that we need in the, from in the cloud. That is really the kind of things this accelerates the DoD Enterprise Cloud environment brings to us. And this is critical because we need to have this cloud ability to, traverse in the cloud from not just CONUS to OCONUS outside of the continental United States, which I think you may have heard referred to as the tactical edge. That seamless global, we need connectivity. This is going to drive. And in fact, I want to emphasize here is when we talk information enterprise and collection capabilities and the kind of things we talk about, these are services and contracts and people. So a lot of the work that goes on requires really civil ways to acquire these services and capabilities. The things that gets us out of the business of doing cloud and to the business of doing the mission, for example. So that really helps us in that regard. And the second goal is to establish a department-wide software factory ecosystem. And what that is really being able to institute modern software practice, DevSecOps. And what that stands for is really sort of combining and integrating the development, the cybersecurity piece, and the ops that are working on those and the systems and integrating them so we have quicker decision, quicker delivery, quicker identification of problems, and being able to institute the security right through and bake it across, end-to-end in development to operation. And that enables us to deliver the software and just continue to update the software and deliver more, not at real time yet, but time. So that is the software factories ecosystem and being able to advance that. And really, how many software factories does it take? Well, it takes as many as it takes for us to be able to do our mission is really where we're at with that. And then the goal 3 is transform processes to enable resilience. So I think I touched on that, but really this is what we're talking about when we talk the DoD processes of current, the current processes have to evolve. The way we acquire systems, that's why we work hand in hand with the acquisition community to make sure that the way we acquire software changes, because our acquisition processes have a lot of steps that we have to go through. And, for ships and plane works, for software, not so much. So we to evolve the way we acquire software. In addition, how we develop, again, R&D processes. What worked for ships and jets, like I said, is not working for software. So that's why we need the software factories and the DevSecOps practices, the software containers, so we can reuse and not have to invent every time. To utilize what we've delivered and done already, and not continue to tie up and processes. As the same with cybersecurity. So we want to, for example, the continuous authorization to operate as one of that we're a very heavy working, which will enable the ability to have that authorization if fucking authorization on a continuous basis, checking and recheck through automation and through continuous monitoring to be able to do those things. So these are the things, and of course the workforce, the process I talked about, falls into the transformation processes to be able to do the things that we outline in goal 1. And this is going to be sort of we're going to walk this incrementally when the implementation plan is going to be, probably for every couple, we're going to update it. It's going to have to be agile. And agile just means that you're able to pivot if necessary without breaking mission and without losing too much time. So that's the way we're even looking at the implementation plan. So that's in a nutshell for modernization strategy lays out.
But Zalecky acknowledges the cloud is integral to the department's modernization effort. It's not about just simply moving to the cloud for its own sake.
So when we talk hybrid, it sounds sort of nebulous, but it's really the issue that I talked about, because you have legacy capabilities here that as we continue to rationalize, assess, and to continuously move applications into the cloud, we find that some of them may not be moved. So you're going to have to, do an on-premise or a data center and maybe upgrade that capability to make sure that these systems can be as efficient and as modified as possible, but they may not be able to move to a commercial cloud. So that gap and that need for both, the on-prem and maybe even the data centers and then the commercial cloud, that is the hybrid world that we live in right now. So that is really the world that me and my seat here must balance, as you say, and must implement as we integrate the future, with our existing and with our past and all the systems that we have today, and as we interconnect them, as we make deliver the services at a maybe enterprise level. Not everything can be enterprise, by the way. As an information enterprise lead, some may want me to say like everything must be, no. Sometimes, we gotta let folks do what they do best. So we give them, layer of architecture, a common layer of requirements, technical, operational requirements, business requirements, and then allow them to connect to that layer. So these are that makes for where we are today in our world, for the hybrid approach and the multi, as I explained earlier, it means that the ability to have the various cloud service offerings from the different CSPs and our services and across the board has variations of cloud offerings, and JWCC brings additional elementary offerings, including the ability to do across all application levels, on-class, secret, top secret, and also being to get out all the way to the tactical edge, which is really, really a challenging one for us, especially for boots on the ground where they're disconnected and remote areas. The ability to do that, actually an area of challenge we're still tackling, but that is the other piece that we look at. So when you look at these variations and requirements and just the of the mission requirement itself, that it is not a one swoop, like everyone pick up and go to the cloud. It doesn't work that way. And really, the software modernization and mission plan, the things I laid out earlier, recognize this is really a walk. We're going to have to walk and figure out it, and what we're embarking on, and we're going to do.
Thanks for joining me for this special edition of the Business of Government Leaders Speak on Federal IT. Each time for another informative, insightful, and in-depth conversation on improving governorship and its effectiveness. Until then, subscribe, download, and listen to the entire interview at iTunes or on your favorite and always at business.org. For the Business of Government Hour, I'm Michael. Thanks for joining us.
On the Business of Government Hour, government executives and thought leader Michael Keegan for an informative, insightful, and in-depth conversation on improving governance effectiveness. These individuals are truly changing the way government does. So join them each week on the Business of Government. Find out how the business of government isn't business as usual. The Biz of Government Hour, every Monday at 11 a.m. on Federal News Network.
WFED Washington, W283DG Sterling, WTOP2 Washington, WWWT-FM HD Manassas, WTLP-FM HD2 Braddock Heights, Frederick, Washington. Download the Federal News Network app on the App Store, Google Play Store. Federal News Network.
Federal News Network is the news organization of record for the federal community. We are nonpartisan, non-political, and our job is to help federal government and contracting executives make informed decisions. We inform federal managers, contract makers on issues related to the federal workforce, management, and acquisition, retirement, the Defense Department, and federal IT. Nights and weekends, we air Washington Nationals, Capitals, and the Navy midshipmen. We are the Washington, D.C. home of the Athletics. Download the Federal News Network app on the App Store or Google Play Store. Play Federal News Network on Alexa. Check out Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Federal News Network. Our mission is helping you.
CBS News on the Hour, presented by .com. I'm Steve Kathan. Hurricane Idalia has pounded western Florida.
Holding, but the water just keeps coming.
Idalia's powerful and in some places record-breaking storm surge is in parts of Florida's Gulf Coast. Homes and streets in Cedar Key are now underwater from a surge forecasters hit 16 feet high. At least 230,000 homes lost power. That's CBS's Christian Benavides. Florida's highway blames 2 deaths on the conditions. An old oak tree fell on the governor's mansion in Tallahassee. No one hurt. The storm's now a Category 1 spinning into Georgia. CBN Bojorquez in Savannah.
There's also the possibility of tornadoes. We need warnings spinning up as well as we've been driving around this morning. And think about Georgia and some of these areas of the large, the other trees, and well, the wind, of course, can push them down. They could fall on homes or on power lines. That's the worst-case scenario.
PA is now going through charred neighborhoods in Hawaii to get rid of any hazardous materials after the deadly Maui wildfires. KGMB reporter Chelsea Davis.
Officials said they have the best team in the world in the search and recovery operation. At the peak, 400 trained personnel, cadaver dogs from across 19 different states. Now, the timeline for access for residents and business owners is still being developed right now. Tell us they will definitely let us know once they have a better idea of when exactly that will be.
The judge has ruled in favor of 2 workers in their defamation case against Rudy for his state actions after the 2020 election. The White House says Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un have exchanged letters, part of Moscow's bid to get more weapons for the Ukraine war. The BBC's Paul Adams on a massive Russian missile and drone attack in Kyiv.
Ukrainians say they shot them all down, but as a result of falling debris, 2 security workers in the city were killed.
On the Health Watch, new information on heart attacks and aspirin.
A 7-year, 51-country study found fewer than 40% of people who've suffered a attack or stroke take a daily aspirin, even though it can help prevent another cardiac event. The take-up ranged from about 17% in low income to about 65% in high-income countries like the U.S. And the stakes couldn't be higher. 18 million people globally die of cardiovascular diseases each year. It's the world's leading cause of death. Vicki Barker, CBS News.
Wall Street right now, the Dow up 67. This is CBS.
You need to hire fast and hire right? You need Indeed. Their on-hiring platform helps you attract, interview, and hire candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
Have you Googled yourself lately? Are there negative posts ex-employee or from a former client? Maybe an outdated news article or sensitive personal information about your family. Search engines don't always get it right. Right or wrong, it's your reputation on the line. That's where Reputation Defender by Norton comes in. One of the most trusted online reputation repair. Reputation Defender has been fixing people's search results for 15 years. Their cutting-edge approaches help you to wipe away unwanted information in your search results. They also promote the good stuff so that it rises to the top, and you put your best foot forward. Your good name is too valuable to leave to the whims of a Google algorithm. Take control with Reputation Defender. You can start by getting your free reputation report card at reputationdefender.com or call 800-401-6681 to speak to an expert. That's 800-401-6681.
Prolonged strikes have turned late-night TV into a slew of risks, but the hosts are busy once again.
It's been a while since we've heard from this guy. Now Colbert and his fellow late-night talkers are uniting for a podcast. It proceeds to their employees who've been out of work since the Hollywood writers' strike began in May. The production, Strike 5 with Stephen, the two Jimmys, Seth Meyers and John Oliver, debuts today on Spotify. It'll have at least 12 episodes, and the hosts will rotate as moderators. Deborah Rodriguez, CBS News.
Canada has warned members of the LGBT community planning to visit the U.S. they may be at risk, telling them to check relevant state and local laws. The notice says some people could be targeted in the U.S. because of gender identity or sexual orientation. Steve Kathan, CBS News.
Now today's federal newscast. Concerned that, quote, bureaucrats are phoning it in, one senator is calling for the State Department's Inspector General office to back telework for employees. Like many Republicans in Congress, Iowa's Joe Ernst says feds working from home is worsening federal services to the public. Ernst is calling on the IG to determine the end of telework across the government on the delivery of services and how much money could be saved by consolidating unused office. The letter to the State Department's IG follows a long line of calls from Republicans urging a government-wide return to office. The Census Bureau is looking for its next decennial 2030 a Census Advisory Committee. The committee will offer an outside perspective. Find these stories at federalnewsnetwork.com. You're listening to Federal News Radio, part of the Federal News Network. I'm Peter Masurlian.
Selling to the government made easier thanks to the Coalition for Government Procurement. Federal News Network. Search awesome.